Okay, so we've got Simon from the UK. Been a viewer for how long, mate?
I think from around maybe October last year.
Right.
Maybe,
Okay.
maybe even around the back end of the summer.
Right. And so relatively new.
Yes.
Um, because my videos they go back 5 years. Like I've said, 1,750.
I
A
put a lot of
lot.
hours in though from that point.
Uh, yeah, indeed. There's a lot of history there. There's an enormous amount of evolution that can be gleaned. And you see, what I've done is I've told my story. Basically, is I'm going through my awakening and my spiritual growth, and with my psychedelic experiences, astral projection and meditation, and all this stuff. And so, how many videos would you say? Could you guesstimate how many you've watched?
Oh wow! How many have you got?
1,750.
Hundreds.
Hundreds.
Definitely hundreds. And then you get to the point where obviously, why? Because there was a resonance. I was obviously searching for things, and when you're on YouTube, whatever, it brings up those subjects that you've been searching for. And then you go down the rabbit hole, don't you? Because you resonate with something, and then you
Yeah.
start watching stuff, and then you get to the point where you'll look for the bits that you're interested in. So, but yeah, hundreds, hours and hours and hours.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's cool because you are exactly the variety of member that I want and the other members want, because you know what I'm about from that amount of viewing. You're not going to be offended by me. You've seen it all before. You're still around, and so you have a level of acceptance or tolerance for me when I bluster now and again, and I get fed up with my viewers. I call them to task and I call them on their bullshit. But you see, what's happened is now is what I was doing is in the latter part, I had a plan that I wanted to eliminate the vast majority of the viewers who didn't have the strength, didn't have the determination to grow in the way in which I'm appealing to people to grow
Yeah.
by looking at their shit. Absolutely look at their shit. Most people don't want to do it. They'll look at everybody else's and they'll point the finger at everybody else's, but they don't want to look at theirs. And so what I did is, obviously, I've said it many times, I wanted to separate the wheat from the chaff. And so this is why I endeavored to upset people, because I wanted to see how far people would go, because then in the new platform, I know that I can say anything. People know that what I'm like, and they know that I don't mean anything I say. And sometimes I'll say stuff because I'm so casual with myself, and it's like, oh, a bit offensive, to women's or to gays or to Muslims or to Christians or to Jews or to anybody. I don't hold back on any of it. If I've got an opinion, I'll say it. I'm entitled to that, and everybody's entitled to theirs. And so by now, then, the people in the site have a deep understanding of me. It's a beautiful, emancipating position to be in, because now my guard is down. I am embracing all of you with the love and the respect that you deserve, because you've been through it, and I've put you to task, and I'm happy now that you're here. So how do you feel about that?
Wow, how do I feel about that? Touched. There's a lot you say, Aaron, but there are some things that resonate more than others. There's one thing that you said about you want a community of friends, and I'm someone that if you say something, then I'm saying a word for a particular reason because it conveys meaning.
Yes.
And that's where you come from. And that really connects with me. And there's lots that you've said, but it's like, actually, yeah, you want to separate. That was a frustrating time back then when it was like, okay, here, this is what I'm going to say, separating the wheat from the chaff, and you let it all out. And I get the logic in that. And then it was a case of, right, I'm setting up this new community. I'm watching all these people say, well, I can't afford that.
Yeah.
And for me, it's an investment. One, it isn't a lot of money, but what's not a lot of money for me might be a lot of money for other people. So it's not really about that. But for me, it's an investment. And I'm looking for a community. I'm looking for connection. I'm looking to converse and dialogue and be stimulated and all of that. And here was an opportunity. And I felt, I didn't want to be left behind. I just stumbled across something. And they were going to go lock themselves away in a way. So I can understand why people think it's cultish, but you need to step outside yourself and understand, why am I feeling this way? Is this conditioning, or is there truth in it? And if there is truth in it, that's dialogue, which is a group of people, not this
Exactly.
monologue. So for me, it was, I'm going to take a punt. I want to go with these people and see where this goes.
Brilliant.
So from what you've just said, I'm ecstatic. I'm happy to be here. I'm really, to see all the people on the site. I love watching the one-to-ones you're having with people, and then the ability to comment. The forum will unlock so much. So
Yeah. And so I'll just go back a little bit to the people that were leveling certain things at me, like I was suppressing their comments. This is why he wants maximum control. He's a control freak. And I said to them, look, you can say anything you want to say if it's in a philosophical standpoint. But when you're leveling ad hominem at me, and when you are speculating and spreading a scourge about what my intention is, when it's absolutely not true, then I'm not going to allow you to do that. It's like if I throw a party and you gate crash the party and you start, disrupting the place. Are we going to allow you to stay? No. And so why would you consider that this platform is anything different? I think what you've got to get in your head, people, I said, is that you think that YouTube is your property. My videos is my property, absolutely my property, and I have jurisdiction over whether I want to put them up or take them down, and I have jurisdiction whether I want to listen to you on it or not. YouTube provides me this privilege, and it also can take it away like it did do. And so I said, if you don't like what I say, and if you can't see there's a reality and the truth and the goodness in it, then for goodness sake, don't waste your time. Go somewhere else.
Exactly. You have autonomy what you listen to, don't you?
Exactly. And so what I said to every single one of them, I said, come on Skype. Let us air it for everybody to see. And then you can see that I'm not hiding nothing. I will address every single thing you've said. Come on, come on, come on. And I said it time and time again, and not one single one of them came forward. And so I said, well, I've called you bluff, so fuck off now. And so in this new site, that energy is gone. I said in the very recent video that when I was addressing the viewers, albeit I knew there was a lot of good people out there that had a lot of respect and cared for me, I couldn't help but speak through them into the negative energy which was all around them. I just couldn't give them my devotion and my love. And so this is why I wanted to come away from that. And now I've got this platform where I can, because I know my viewers they're with me, they're with each other, they want exactly what I want, and we're all free thinking, we can say whatever we want to. And it's just a case of bearing in mind that there is no right and wrong. And whatever belief that you've got, know it's a belief, know it's not a reality, and know that your truth is no more true than anybody else's. Once we've got this basic fundamental basis laid down, then we can embrace everybody and we go, yeah, I know why you are like you are, Simon, because you have had a childhood like this. And so you accept me for being like I am because I've had a childhood like that. Exactly. And I said, we are nothing more than an accumulation of all the experiences that we've ever had. So how can I change that? How can you change it? We can look at it, we can assess it, and we can go, damn, my mother abandoned me. And so why is it that I find it so hard then now to have long-term relationships with anybody really? Because I know through reality that one day the relationship's going to be over. So I don't want to invest too much time. Yes. And that's it. I tell you why I'm like I am. I've been in too many relationships with women whereby you start to see it fall away. And if you've loved that person and you start to see it fall away, it breaks your heart. And it goes on and on and on, and it tears you the fuck apart. And you tear that person the fuck apart. I don't want to do it. I want a relationship which is friendly, platonic, and I think that's the best, because those sorts of relationships potentially can go on forever.
So with that in mind, if that's putting your heart out there and saying this is why you're on your own, aren't you? And you're isolated, and that's a conscious thing, right?
Yes.
So do you think that that's how you need to be ad infinitum?
It's how I've absolutely enjoyed for the vast majority of this past 12 years since my wife for 5 months hired a van, stole as much furniture as she possibly could, which she never bought and didn't belong to her, really, albeit, okay, we was husband and wife. I bought her a sports car about a month prior, which I paid $8,000 for. And she took that straight back to the shop and she sold it. And then she sent me a text and she says, sorry, I've done the dirty on you.
How long were you together? 5 months.
we was together for 7 years.
Right. Okay.
But we had this 18-month kind of like threshold. We could only do 18 months. The first 18 months I separated from her. Second 18 months she separated from me. The third 18 months we separated from each other. We went, well, we've given it our best shot, and then we got back together for the fourth time. And I said, okay, I'll commit to you properly. I'll put a ring on your finger, and I'll show you some commitment. And because I'm kind of like I've kind of resolved some of my issues and I feel like I'm ready for that. But as soon as we married, the day we were married, the magic wasn't there. It was absolutely bizarre. The magic left the day we were married. And we would go out and we would sit at a bar. We wouldn't have anything to say to each other. That never, ever, ever happened. It was just curious that it wasn't meant to be.
It wasn't like that before.
Before we were talking like we're talking now. We were incessantly talking every time we was together. It didn't matter for how long. We'd get drunk, we'd have great sex, and we'd have a laugh, and it was beautiful. But as soon as we got married, it was all over. And I think what it was then, because she'd made up her mind that well, she'll marry me. But she's marrying me for the money because I was pretty wealthy. I had my own business. I was turning over like $400,000 a year. I drove a Jaguar. I bought her a sports car. I had 2 properties. I had 20 staff working for me and a fleet of, removal vehicles. And so she thought, I'll have a fucking bit of that. And so then she came in and she schemed. She was photocopying property documents. I went over to Bulgaria and bought some property whilst we were married, and it turns out that she was photocopying them, and she was getting all the documents to the title deed and all this, and as soon as she separated, she went for everything. But fortunately, because we'd only been married 5 months and I had acquired all of my wealth prior to that, she got nothing. All she got was about $2,500. Which was the remainder of the house. You see, there was $5,000 in this property that we were living in, because what I did is, whilst I was waiting for her to do her conniving, I remortgaged the property. And so I took the $45,000 profit out of it. And so then by the time it was seized, then there was only $5,000 profit in it. And then I got $2,500 of that. So I got an extra $2,500 for doing that. And so she was gutted in the end. She got nothing. So
I can relate to that story. Now I've got to be careful because I'm in the marital home right now.
Right, and bear in mind this is going to go up on the site. So yeah,
so perhaps we could take perhaps we'll take this conversation offline. But where it's relevant is this. I was thinking, what could we talk about? And it's this. I thought, okay, the awake and brave and the ascended. Those 3 words. To be awake, I found that I got to a certain point and I expected the world to be a certain way because that's what I was told it was going to be like, and that's how I was conditioned. And then you get to a point and it's not. It's like the Matrix. You wake up, but then you straddle both of these worlds. It's a dichotomy.
Yes, mate.
And I live this drama, and it's like, well, do I change it? Do I go live in Portugal, be by myself, which I could totally relate to, completely relate to. Yeah. I struggle with relationships because once you're awake, you try to talk to them about certain things and explain, even from something as simple as, rather than take pharmaceuticals, you could get that naturally. Yeah. What are you talking about? Oh, you just want to do drugs. And people don't get what you're saying. They're completely blind to it. And you end up coming across as this crazy person. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely. We all know what you mean, because it's mental. It's the ever recurring cognitive dissonance. Yeah. Because it's information outside of their paradigm, and somehow they've been conditioned into thinking, well, we know how it's happened because they've woo-wooed it and poo-pooed it for years and years and years. And so because they're only shown on the advertisements, on the television, and in all the shops all around, all this pharmaceutical stuff, which will kill them. And if they take it often enough and long enough, it will fucking kill them. And all you have to do is read the long list that you get rolled up with minuscule little writing in these pharmaceuticals, and somewhere in there, just about every single one of them, it says, and by the way, you may get suicidal tendencies.
It's mental.
It's
like hidden in plain sight. It's like there's an elaborate ploy, not only to put us in some sort of slave position, but also to kill us off. Not only are we being fed pharmaceuticals that don't solve the root problem, that are slowly killing us and giving us more disease, on the other side, our food and our water's toxic as well.
Yes.
And you look at it and you think, are they trying to kill us off?
Yeah, exactly. It's not only the food and water, you see, it's the environment. Of course,
yeah, you're right.
The Wi-Fi thing these days is a very, very serious issue. And if you come upon videos by Mark Zuckerberg and Bill Gates and John, who invented the iPhone, Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
They all banned their children from using these things. And so all we have to do is question that. Do they know something more than we do? Of course they do. Are they suppressing all these tests that are being done about the effects of Wi-Fi? Of course they are. And so the powers that be are absolutely adamant that they want every single one of us to be under the effects of that, and it is killing our immune system. There's so many tests being done, and you can read so many official documents that say all the illnesses that are being brought about, proven via this Wi-Fi stuff, and yet they just keep pushing it forward. And so, of course, yes, they're trying to kill us.
Do you think that there'll be a point in time within our lifetime that communities like what we have, and other communities like Anonymous, and other communities like you've got the contributionist movement in South Africa? You heard of that?
No, I haven't.
There's a community over there that a guy started where his vision is to get 10,000 people, about the size of a small town, and you come out of society and you create your own economy, really, and everyone contributes 3 hours per week. The rest of the time is your own.
Right.
So that's 10,000 people, that's 30,000 hours, isn't it? So, and you not only create products and services that your community needs, you also service the world as well. And it's to take them out of this society, this culture that we're in, that's self-serving and toxic.
Yes.
So my question is, do you think that there'll be a tipping point where we'll get it and say, we are connected, we need to go back to living as tribes as we used to, we need to come closer together and live differently, save the planet and save ourselves? Or not?
Okay, so obviously this sort of question is on the tip of the tongue of many awakened people. And we look around at the world and we see that we are under serious attack from a serious force to be reckoned with. And one of the greatest difficulties and obstacles is that the vast majority of the threat is deriving from ourselves, from our own ignorance, from our own complacency, from our own just don't give a damn, man. Oh, chemtrails, so what? What the fuck can we do about it? Wi-Fi, so what? Where's my phone? Fluoride in the water. All this sort of thing. You know, how many people drink and smoke themselves, to death, and they don't do any exercise and they eat poorly. You'll find that many people, they have this Thanatos syndrome, which is something that Freud coined, and it's a death wish. Deep in the root of many human beings is, in actual fact, a death wish. And I've looked at this and I've considered that. And I thought, well, if deep in the human psyche, in the unconscious, the human being knows that it's not a reality and that its soul lives forever, it's come down to a certain dimension to have an experience, but it feels intuitively that it's not the body, then of course, it doesn't have a great deal of respect for the body. And this is why then you can look across the whole board of human beings and how they abuse their body from the moment they get out of bed to the moment they go back to bed, year in, year out. And so this is a deep-rooted psychological issue that I haven't heard anybody address outside of Freud when he talks about this. And obviously he psychoanalyzed thousands and thousands of patients, and so he could see the self-destructive nature which is incomprehensible to the cognitive egoic mind. It doesn't know why it's doing all this stuff, but your unconscious, which knows absolutely everything about you, it knows. And it's kind of like, it doesn't matter. Curious.
Apathy, because it knows it's infinite anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know. I understand the viewpoint. I think I was watching something else the other day where they were showing videos of smoking back in the 60s, and people's, they were saying, right, we've got proof now that this causes cancer. And it's like, well, it's not going to make me stop it because, I've got to have a little bit of happiness.
Yeah.
So it's that live fast, die young type of attitude, because it's so shit. I work so hard and there ain't much to live for. I'm going to have a little bit now.
Exactly.
That's the carnal part of us. It's like, well, I want to experience now. I don't really care what it does to me. Rather than the infinite view, it's more the short-term view. I want to live today.
Yes. And I'll say that because I think it's because we are born into this prison and we are subjected to so much pressure. We are not living the lives that we should be and maybe opted for when we came here as spirits, if you believe in this. What's happened is we've been born into a prison which is run by evil masters. And from the very, very offset, they are channeling us down with one design in process or plan, and it's for the extraction of your energy. And as soon as your optimum level of energy extraction is depleted, they want you dead as fast as possible because they don't want you using up that which maybe your energy has helped to create. And so resources, by the way. So from the age of this is why they're increasing the retirement age. And now it's 70 in the UK. And so they're hoping that you die before. And even if you don't die, then the chances are they'll say, sorry, the pension fund is gone. The money's been stolen. We've got no idea where it is.
No, well, there is nothing anyway. I took the dog for a walk the other day and walked past a local YMCA. On the bottom floor, they've got like a gym room where they have like fitness classes. And because it was during the day, because I'm in between jobs at the moment, it was elderly people. And they were there. I was with my daughter as well. She said, oh, what are they doing? And all they were doing, Aaron, they had a load of chairs that you sit down on in a circle, and they were just walking around the chairs. And I wanted to say to her, oh, that's where you go to die. Because that's all they were doing. They had nothing else. They probably had no families. They wanted to spend time with people. And they're in a room walking, probably we're going to do this to get you nimble and fit.
Yeah.
That's what we've got to look forward to.
Yeah, exactly. And in comparison, and I spoke about this in recent videos also, here in Southern Europe, where you've got the weather, you've got a whole different culture. It's much more relaxed. There's nothing like the pressure that is born into the Northern European countries. You get groups of males and females of a retired age up until, goodness me, 80, 90 years old, convening in public places on a regular basis, just hanging around like a bunch of youths on the street corner. Old men, 90% of them with the flat caps and the walking sticks and this, that, and the other, laughing and having the crack. Yep. And the men and women, they're playing bowls on the beachfront or in the local plaza, this sort of thing. It's a whole different ballgame. That's what life should be about. It should be about being relaxed in an environment of friends that hopefully you've known for a long time. You've got a closely knit community with. And you're not always whinging about how freaking cold it is, how depressing it is, and how you can't afford to turn your heating on because the government wants you dead because you're using too many resources, on and on and on. And so the Northern European countries, that they are hell on earth for old people who haven't worked their bollocks off and been successful in their lives.
Exactly. And there's going to be a huge crisis when my generation grows up and those millennials grow up. They know it's coming. It's going to be awful. But you brought up a point. I think you mentioned it in your video as well. You moved to where you are now for a reason, because the weather plays a huge factor, not only in your mood, but also in society. As you say, people can get out and enjoy each other and the weather. Makes a huge difference. Absolutely
massive difference, you see, because when it's bright and sunny and warm, it's 17 degrees today, and albeit it's overcast and it's a little bit drizzly, it's still ambient weather. And the beach is like a 2 minutes walk up there, and I go every single day. I'm out in nature. I sit and meditate on the beach or under a tree and all this sort of thing. It's absolutely blissful. We need this in our lives. Contrary to what I'm doing here and what people have the potential to do. Look at what's going on in England now. Freeze your bollocks off weather, snow and dull and all this. And if people want to go out, where do they go, Simon? What do they do except walk around the circle in a memorial hall or village hall, for like 10 minutes and have a cup of tea and a biscuit and then go home to their sad, lonely lives.
That's it. That is it. And it's, I've just read a book by Johann Hari called The Lost Connections, and it's a different point of view on depression. And it's got quite a lot of big readers from, celebrities that have read it and backed it. But
Stephen Fry.
I think he did. Yeah, I think he's commented on it. Elton John, but a lot of people from a wide spectrum. But the premise of what he was trying to say was that our disconnectivity, that is the core of the problem. And depression is, it's multifaceted, it's biological, it's social, it's cultural, but it's mostly down to we've lost our connection. Only in extreme sense, where you've got your bipolar or your schizophrenia, do we need severe intervention with pharmaceuticals. But for the most part, we just need to be connected. And he's been on this massive crusade of talking to very, very clever people, and he's proved the point. It's just lack of connection. We started off on the plains of Africa as tribes, and now we're completely disconnected.
Yeah.
And that's where this depression is coming from.
And if you look at it then, if you look at the human psyche and you look at what makes us feel beautiful, and I was speaking to one of the viewers last night in an interview, and I said this. I said, it's the expression of the human being which brings about great joy and catharsis. It brings a catharsism derived out of your expression. Because if you are enveloped in a society which doesn't allow you to express itself, like currently now, and it's like it's becoming more and more pervasive and more suppressive all over the world. You're not allowed to express yourself. And I walk down the street and I'm singing, and people look at me and laugh. Oh, that is a nutter, or this, that, and the other. What are you talking about? I'm expressing myself. I've got the joy of the world beaming within every cell of my body, and I'm joyous. Well, how can you find that curious? Or you can label it as madness or something like this. So everybody's suppressed. Their creativity has been stifled because they don't have time for it. And unless you're very, very good and gifted in a creative region, then you'll never make any money from it. And so how many stories have we heard when people picked up a guitar and the parent said to them, put that fucking thing down, you want to go and get a job? The likes of Oasis and the Beatles and on and on and on and on and on. And it's just the same with artists of any description. If you have a flair for it, if you have a desire for it, do it. Honestly, do it, because then you are living. When you go and get a job, whatever it is, unless you're absolutely ecstatic in doing it, all you're doing is partaking in your own slavery and demise. And that is going to induce your depression over time. Whereas Yeah.
Exactly where I've been. So I work in the creative industries, as you know. So I'm a designer and have been for nearly 25 years. And what I've found is that creativity is stifled, and where it isn't, it's just everybody's ego.
Yeah.
So as a designer, I would expect to be listened to. But what you go into, even if you go into creative agencies, it's everybody that wants a piece of it, and no one's willing to work together. Everyone works in silo, and it
Yeah.
becomes quite a toxic place to work.
Yeah.
So I can't fit in work anymore. I need to be free and flexible and independent. So I'm so when I come out of the back of a really difficult job last October, around about the time I started listening to your videos and whatnot, and I was like, I want to feel better. I'm not finding it wherever I go. And, you know, I was looking at I've done a lot of drugs in the past in my youth, recreationally, and some of it was amazing. Some of it was really scary and whatnot. But recently, after watching it, I was thinking, right, okay, I want to feel better, and I'm going to pick this journey back up again. And I looked at Kratom, and Kratom was really interesting. It was, I did 6 months, if I go back a bit, I did 6 months on an antidepressant once. We were going through some real difficult life circumstances, saw 2 people die in the same year. My wife broke her leg badly. It was just loads of stuff happened. It was terrible, and it just pushed me into this really difficult place. And I never ever wanted to take antidepressants, and I felt I've got to do this because I need to function, not only for myself but also for my family. So I saw the doctor, and I did it for 6 months. It was awful. I didn't like the side effects. It numbed me, and I'm someone that's emotional. I need to feel. I'm made to feel. We're supposed to feel things.
Yeah.
So I decided to come off it, and my fear was with it, if I do it and it doesn't work, that's the last resort. Well, anyway, fast forward, I did a lot of talking therapy and whatnot, and that was incredibly useful. I'm someone that needs to talk. I find that cathartic, just to get it out and
Exactly.
say what I think, rather than internalize it.
Express yourself.
Exactly. I got to the point where I started doing a lot of research and come across Kratom. Now, Kratom is probably the only thing I've taken that pretty much within 15 minutes, you feel different, and you feel dreamy. And I understand that actually we're a chemical being, and it's a chemical thing. It's not rocket science. You put things together and something comes out. But so I've got a stock of Kratom now. It was interesting that you found that your own personality type, and you're also that what you enjoy, you got to a point where you thought, that's not for me. And I experienced that as well. And now I'm at a point where I'm stacking it with other stuff where I probably take 4 grams a week.
Right.
And it does me. And the other thing that I'm trying as well, I'm microdosing psilocybin. Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. But like you said something about what it will do, it will hold the mirror up to yourself. And I think for the people that for the most part hide from themselves, incredibly useful if they're going to go through it. But someone like me, I've held the mirror up to myself for years. So I don't want to feel sadder.
Yeah.
You know, and you said this, I don't want to feel morose and sadder. And you seem to push yourself through it with energy. I think sometimes you got berserking. I think that was perhaps to get you through the dreaming state. I don't know.
I was berserking on Amanita muscaria.
Yeah.
A completely different vibe that you get from that. But yes, the microdosing on psilocybin made me morose, but I wasn't exactly microdosing. I was doing...
you wasn't. I know you wasn't. But...
I was doing between half a gram and 1 gram a day, whereas microdosing, you're supposed to do 0.2.
Which is what I'm doing, but it still has the same effect. It still brings up the difficult feelings.
Right. Okay. So that's interesting to know, because I still got 55 grams of psilocybin left, stashed somewhere in the UK. And I want to do the long-term psilocybin, because I want to see what effects it has on the health and general well-being and disposition and all this sort of thing.
Yeah.
If you know, you just take a smidgen of it, and because it's a beautiful thing. It makes you a little bit dreamy. You're always aware. You're always aware that you're aware. And even though I'm absolutely aware that I'm aware now, it's a more expansive awareness. Whereas on the psilocybin, it kind of closes you down.
That's right.
Have you felt that?
I'm able to focus more. So it dials stuff up. but when it dials it up, it polarizes it. So I'm able to focus in on things, and it's an incredibly great experience. It's not euphoric, it's productive. It helps, it focuses my introspection. So from that, it's a fantastic tool.
Right. And so that's your perspective on it. And yeah, I mean, I have to draw mine because we all get affected differently.
That's right.
But I'm pretty sure from the general consensus, and particularly like John Hopkins Hospital in the US, they've been doing tests on depression, anxiety, and anti-smoking and many other things for a few years now, and they've got very, very positive results. And so what I'll say about that psilocybin is that it changed my perspective forever regarding nature, because from the moment I first started taking it, I will never, ever be the same again. And what it has given me stays with me. And it's kind of like, I've discussed this with Paul many, many occasions. It's a bit like the euphoria of kratom. It's a beautiful, light feeling and cozy feeling, and lots of stuff until you have an immunity to it, and you need more and more and more, and then you get more and more dehydrated and constipated, and then as soon as you wake up in the morning, you've got the anxiety, the anxiousness, because you've got withdrawal symptoms. And so I thought, no, not having that.
Yep.
But yes, to microdose psilocybin for a prolonged period, that's what I want to do as another test for myself. And also the other thing is what I considered is DMT, because I say, you commented on...
Have you done that? I know, I'm joking.
Yeah, I know you commented on one of the videos the other day, didn't you? Yeah. And you said how you appreciated, how I conveyed it and things like that. You see, what happens with me with all psychedelics, they enhance my energy and my vitality and zest for life. It's a curious thing. So I asked myself the other day, having done those DMT, the next day I go to the gym and I'm awesome, and I'm feeling really great and light, and I'm wondering, what would the benefit of microdosing DMT? Just to have, kind of like this every day.
Yeah,
it wouldn't disfigure the world around you, because small doses you get little. And so, okay, maybe like for 5 minutes, you get, a little bit of something, moving a little bit, like a bit on psilocybin. But I'm wondering whether that would, because it's a neuron transmitter. It's one of the dopamines, isn't it? It's in that realm of serotonin. And so that can't be a bad thing.
I think the reason for microdosing applies to many compounds. So the research that I've done on Reddit and numerous other places, even looking at McKenna and Paul Stamets and and just taking so much in, I'm finding that you can integrate this into your life in a Mercedes way, in a micro or a macro way. So therapeutically, perhaps periodically throughout the year, not a lot, but microdose, you could do it more regularly, but for shorter periods. So for cannabis, you get quite a few people microdosing that. I don't get on too well with cannabis. It tends to make me think too much. But,
yes, me too. I can never escape my incessant thoughts, and that's not what I'm about these days.
No, and it can be quite very intense, to be fair. DMT, never done that, but I can understand it. And the microdosing for me, I'm furthering the experimentation. So I'm only 16 days in, and the protocol I'm following is a guy called Dr. James Fadiman.
Right, I haven't heard of him.
So I microdose, and I've tried the 0.1, 0.2, and I tried 0.3 the other day, and that was like, I could really feel that. It's probably a bit too much. And I do it on a Tuesday.
Right.
And then you journal all the way through. So you microdose on the Tuesday. The next day is your transition day, which for me seems to be an amazing day, just in terms of how I feel and productivity and all of it. And that's quite typical. The day after that is a normal day. And then I'll do another microdose on the Saturday. So Tuesday and Saturday, twice a week.
I was doing it every day. That's probably what my issue was. And I was doing, like I say, 0.5 gram or 1 gram every day. And
So it says non-perceptual, but the problem I think that I know that's in me is I want to feel something.
yeah.
And then there's that internal battle that I have.
Well, yes. I mean, because what it does is it's like what ayahuasca does. It revives things, issues that you've got, which you've buried into your unconscious. It starts to bring them back up, because I don't know how familiar you are with Freudian's psychology, but obviously he was big on the unconscious. And so he knew that the unconscious was like 90% of the information which we have within us and we derive from this, that, and the other. And the unconscious feeds the conscious mind subliminally via dreams and inspiration and all this sort of thing. And so I forgot what I was going to, the point I was going to make. Was I talking about psilocybin, microdosing?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay, talking about that. Okay, yes, talking about the morose aspect of it. I found that every single time I take psilocybin, that I reflect that I should be spending more time with my daughter.
Okay.
And even though it's completely impractical for many, many reasons, we're adults now, I have a feeling of loss there, because I absolutely, really, really enjoyed that part of our lives when she was a kid and we were together. It was beautiful. And so I don't know why. All the time it tells me that. I'm like, why are you telling me that? If you are supposed to be, all omniscient, and you're supposed to be helping here, then how is that helping me? It's making me feel morose. It's giving me a feeling of despair, in that I can never go back there again, save for my dreams. And when I have dreams, it's always when she's a kid, and they're absolutely beautiful. It's a blessing. But why do I get that? I don't know why that is, Simon. Why do you think it is?
I think that we have the ability to recall anything that's happened to us in our lives, but just for the most part we don't, just because we're completely distracted. And compounds and like psilocybin opens up subconscious, and that memory you have and those feelings is like a signpost. You can go back and that signpost is always there, and it brings up those feelings. But what I'm learning about philosophy and wisdom is that we need a sense of detachment, that we just allow those feelings to come and go, not
Absolutely.
to get drawn in.
Absolutely.
So they're there.
Yeah.
It's like a recording, isn't it? It's not. It's there to teach us, but at the same time, there might not be. It might just be a reminder, a signpost, and just to let it go.
Yeah, like a ship in the night. When you are in meditation and your thoughts come, just let them go like ships in the night. Yeah. They have no consequence on the now, and they shouldn't be responsible for anything that you're going to be doing in the future if you have emancipated yourself from what you were, if you've made a severance to that person that you were. And I try to do this on an ongoing basis, get out of bed in the morning, and is who am I today? That's the way I approach the world. I'm not this bloke that was walking around here 1 month ago. Absolutely not. With the experiences that I've had in addition to then, I've become somebody else. And so I carry that with this position with me, and it's a beautiful way to be when you can say, I'm not that person. And I've had many conversations with my second eldest sister along these lines, because she's always like, oh, I like you when you was like this, or I want to see you doing this. I says, you're talking about that 25-year-old person you used to know. Do you not grasp that I'm not that person anymore? No, don't say that. Don't say that. You'll always be that Aaron to me, and this, that, and the other. I say, in your imagination, in your mind. But please, you have to realize that we've grown.
That's her construct as well. That's more for her than probably for you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all for her. She wants me to fit into the dreams that she keeps perpetuating, always remembering the good times, because there hasn't. Sorry?
That's how you get stuck.
Yeah, because she lives a very sedentary life, doing the same thing day in, day out, year in, year out. She's got no landmarks like we should have to go, well, no, I'm not hanging on to all that stuff before. What about last week? Didn't we have a great time last week? You were hilarious. All this sort of stuff. This is what we have to do. But this is the aging syndrome that people get, you see. And when I was younger, I said to my old man, because we used to go around and visit his parents and his grandparents, and it always used to be the same old stuff, pouring out a cup of tea in this tea caddy ritual with the sugar lumps and the little china that they get out of the cabinet like grannies used to have. Yeah. And it would always be talking about old shit. And I'm like, why do old people always talk about old shit from the past? Yeah. And because all they do every single day is get out the tea caddy and the china. If they're lucky, that's the highlight of their life. And so therefore they're living in the past, aren't they?
It's funny because remember that video you did with Paul, and I think you was on Amanita. I don't know, but you were out and you said, and you were talking to the camera saying you were reminiscing. And you was going back to the times of when you was boozing it up and with all the women. We go back to those times where we felt really good.
Yeah.
It's strange, isn't it?
Yes. Going back to a place in your life, just like jumping. You've seen the film Jumper. This guy jumps around all the world. Well, yeah, it's kind of like that. You jump. And I jumped back 10, 15 years to that energized, leery person that I used to be. Always incessantly training karate and running. And I used to run through woods like I depicted in there. With shin pads on, military shin pads on, kicking all of the trees because I was training to compete at world tournaments. And so therefore I would run through all these woods.
Did you watch Kickboxer? Did you get that from Kickboxer?
Well,
Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yeah, I can't remember actually, but that's what he used to do. And all these trees, you see, particularly if the pine trees, they're all tall and slender, and they've got no knobbly bit sticking out. And so you can do that. And everyone was a potential nemesis. And so to go back to feeling that level of energy, it's remarkable. And that's what Amanita does for me every single time. And this is why it's an amazing thing.
Do you think it stimulates the ego? And the ego wants to go back to these times where we feel powerful and alive.
Yes, because if you'd watched, I don't know, whether you remember, but my ego was very, very pronounced in those Amanita. And I was going, I'm fucking telling you now, this, that, and the other about Satan, embody the Satan within you, because all the Satan is the self-gratifying, self-gratify yourself now and again. And then I was a Viking. I was a marauding, pillaging, plundering Viking. And then I was a wolf, I had this lycanthropy. Woo! Man, and then I was so tribal, and I was like this, and I'm looking all around, and I'm feeling absolutely, I was a pagan. I was a paganistic warrior in animal furs. I was that, man. I'm telling you, I experienced that. And you can see how fired I am now. It's amazing that you can experience your spirit in a different creature, in a Viking, in a paganistic, indigenous hunter-gatherer, in a wolf, whatever.
I'd imagine that's how the shamanistic traditions explored these things.
They wear all these head regalia, with different skulls on, and this, that, and the other, because they become something which is in their collective unconscious. They take a part in that. Yeah.
So I think to go back to psilocybin, there's a feeling I got that there's is it symbiotic? A relationship between these natural medicines and us. We're part of the same thing.
Yeah.
We're made from the earth when you look at what we're made from. And I generally did feel that, there is this aspect where you're learning from it. It's raising stuff in you that gives you the opportunity to be focused and introspect and deal with it. It was bizarre. But yeah, just really like, wow, I want to tell people about it. But when you start going telling people about it, they go, yeah, we've lost traditions. So I've been doing a lot of research on mushrooms in general, and I'm dumbfounded by, like cancer, for example. I think there's a large percentage of medicines that are used, pharmaceuticals that are used for the treatment of cancer, have their roots in natural things. So this guy, Paul Stamets, he's a massive advocate of mushrooms, huge. He believes that they can change the world. You have to look him up on
Oh
YouTube.
no, I'm familiar with him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what he was saying about lion's mane mushroom, and how, we told the story about his mum. His mum had cancer to the point where, the cancer was coming through her breasts and the lymph nodes. It really, she was black and blue with it. Went to the doctor and they said, you should have come 2 years ago. Well, anyway, the doctor turned around to her and said, there is a test happening at the moment where they're looking at these mushrooms that can help you. It could have been shiitake or myotic mushrooms. And she needed to hear it from the doctor in order to trust her son.
Yeah.
And I think it was over a short amount of time, it dealt with the cancer. They gave her 3 months to live, and now she's in her 90s. All these natural medicines are there, but there's an embargo on it.
Yes.
It's criminal.
It is absolutely criminal, and it's evil. Because in the UK, you'll be aware that if you pick a psilocybin shroom, then you potentially can go to jail.
Yeah.
It's absolutely illegal just to pick them. It has to be the most absurd law ever been passed. It's absolutely insane and criminal.
Same with cannabis, though, isn't it?
I don't know what level of ban they got in the UK about that. I mean, my mate, he used to grow heaps of this stuff in his attic, and he'd get pulled, and he wouldn't go to jail. He'd just get like a warning.
Well, it is against the law. But if you go back, I think it was in the 60s, maybe earlier, we used to use it quite freely in our medicines in Great Britain, and then the Americans come along with a political agenda to say, we need you to follow our stance, and we've got a war on drugs at the moment, we want you to follow us. Great Britain did that. America, as you know, now is pretty much legal over there in a lot of states, and they relaxed their laws, but Britain has never done the same. They've never gone back on it. So now we have a group of people, a group of decision makers that haven't got a clue about these things because their lives are so far removed from it, and they're making decisions on things that are helping people, and they're plants, for goodness sake.
Yeah, and there's no proof of these substances ever being any harm to anybody.
No.
And I think if somebody could come up with one, oh yeah, there's one where this person jumped out of a 7th floor window. Oh, come on, like some person did what's on acid.
You need to put it in context.
Yeah, that's right. And, this person was super depressed and they were going to jump out that window anyway. Right. The chances are, But the psilocybin, when you take that in a reasonable dose, and it varies, of course, for the individual, and so I couldn't stipulate a dose that it's going to work for you. But what works for me is kind of like minimum 3 grams, 3.5 grams, 4 grams. Then you go into this beautiful dream world where all the nature, all of the everything that's living is just dancing and swaying, and it's so comforting and soft and loving and welcoming. And then, of course, the grass, it just turns into hexagons and then fades away, hexagons, fades away. And you've got all this geometry going on. It's the most amazing, beautiful thing. And that has stayed with me every single day. And I will never, ever look at a tree or a bush or a blade of grass without the deep love and respect, knowing that it is sentient. It absolutely.
You can see how awe-inspiring you found that experience, and every time you watch those videos, you can see you just found it awesome.
Yeah, and so what can be wrong about that? It's beautiful. We might consider what we're doing to the world. If a lot of people took the psilocybin and went out for a walk in the park to discover a facet of what they are, because how I always depict what I'm talking about, I'm saying, look, you'll know when you've become awoken, because what will happen is you won't see any detachment from the natural environment around you, because you will be projecting the love that you've discovered, which is you, deep rooted. It's this love, and you project that onto the world around you, and then you can see love in everything else. And I've said many times in videos, I said, look, is there any intrinsic property to anything? And I don't think there is anything intrinsic to anything. It's all a projection of the self. If somebody's arrogant and aggressive and this, that, and the other, then you project the way you feel onto them. You can feel their vibration, and depending on what mood you're in, depending on how confident you are around that person, whether that person's a threat or something, then that's going to be your assessment, and you're going to project that back. And so therefore, we've all had friends who have introduced other friends. Oh, this is my friend. He's a great guy. And you go, I think he's an idiot. Really? Why do you think he's a great guy? And how can that be so? If this guy is great, then everybody's going to see him as being great. If the greatness is projected from yourself, then of course, then you can see that there's no intrinsic greatness in that person. It's a projection which derives from ourselves. And so when you discover that the trees and the natural world is in actual fact you, if you love yourself, then you will love it. And that is the premise that I'm speaking from these days. You have to find the love of yourself through your introspection, your hard work, your self-actualization, self-discovery. Because when you do that, then like you was inferring, you can emancipate yourself from all of that stuff that doesn't belong to you. It was just an experience that your spirit had.
And this is, I think, is the argument for psilocybin, DMT, to have that awakening, to open up the heart, to enable you to love. But the issue is, and this is probably the problem with ascension, actually, is that the world seems to be quite an evil place, and you have that experience. Well, look at yourself. For you to go back into normal society, you would lose it all. You get overwhelmed by it, because for the most part, people don't live like that.
Yes.
And that's the issue I have, to have that experience, and then out there, it's the opposite. Everything is working against it.
Yes.
So it seems. Perhaps that's just my perception.
Well, I think it's a general consensus that awakened people have, because I was just saying that we're projecting whatever we can, or whatever we're projectionists, basically. That's what we do. We project the way we feel onto the world. And so we create our world via our projectionists. And if you look at a projector projecting a movie, the projector is creating the movie. And the movie is an illusion. It's just variant shades of light on a screen. And so this is what we're doing with the world. And so therefore, the world derives out of what your experiences are, and what level you have of knowledge on yourself. But there is something to be said for energy. Energies are all around, because this is all this thing is. It's energy, isn't it? And so you can feel different energies from different people. You can feel different energies from different towns, different cities. It really, literally is something that is a phenomenon. You get off a train in a different city, and you can feel this. And somebody, I think it was Duncan Trussell, he was talking about this the other day in one of his podcasts, and he was saying, this is mental, man, this is mental. But I went over to so-and-so the other day, and I got there, and as soon as I started to come into that city, I started to get a bad feeling, man. It was a fucking bad feeling, and I was thinking, whoa, what's this ominous feeling? Is something bad going to happen? But nothing bad happened. It was just this bad karma that was around that whole city. As soon as he started to drive back to his hometown, all of a sudden, it felt lighter and brighter, and he wasn't afraid of anything. And he's saying to himself, what the fuck is that? There's something about it. There's something about the prominence of a certain energy in a certain place. And I've been many places all over the world, and I've felt so many different energies. And so I'm absolutely a believer that this thing is only energy, and there's variances of the positive and the negative. And when you go into a realm that you are not yourself, if you're a positive being and you go into a negative environment, of course you feel it. If you're a positive being and you go into a positive environment, you don't feel it anything like as profound. You just feel relaxed. You feel comfortable, yeah? You don't go, wow, this is positive.
Yeah.
You just go, wow, this is cool. I feel great. I like it here. I think I can spend more time here. And so if you go into a boozer where there's an energy which is present and negative, it's kind of like something's going on here, something's going on here, let's get the fuck out of here.
That's interesting because on the one hand, we're saying, perception is projection. Right. So we're putting on our own. So something might not be negative, but we could be putting our own.
That is possible. Absolutely.
And then on the other side, where I agree with you in terms of energy, I think that there can be negativity there, or there can be negativity that's been left there by someone else as well. Yeah. And we can be receptive to that. So it's twofold going on. And also something I'm looking about at the moment is the power of a placebo.
Yes.
And how a placebo works, the power of belief. That if at the moment my daughter's having a really difficult time at school for a number of reasons, and she's got some challenges going on psychologically, so we're trying CBD oil and particular brand, and there's different variations, really expensive stuff, but anyway, again, it's an investment, natural remedy. Because she was having a really tough time, and she'd lost hope basically because there was no intervention that was helping her. Right. So her future was only going to get worse in her mind, so her behaviour was getting worse. In the background, my wife and I were saying we've got to get her out of that school to get her into a different school, and that's going to help her. But we can't. It takes time to do those things. So we wanted to tell her at the right time. Once we had that decision, we could then say to my daughter, "We've got an intervention." She changed with the CBD. We said we've got something that's going to help you. I saw that because it's not a sort of panacea. It is, if that's the right word. But what I'm starting to realise is, once you realise that there is a chance for a positive change, that's the placebo effect coming into play. And you start, if this pen is going to make you feel better and you believe it, you'll feel better.
Absolutely.
The power of belief.
Yes. And so there's much talk about this and how we can actually, we are creators, we create our reality. And you see, again, it's always a paradox. I was born an optimist. Either I was born an optimist or I transmuted negative energy into positive when I was very young. My mother, she committed suicide when I was 4. And so then I went into children's homes and my life was upside down and it was complete turmoil. So I decided that I'm going to transmute all this negative energy and loss of love into the love of self and the self-belief, not depending on anybody, and this world is going to be what I make it. And so therefore, all the decisions that I make, I'm solely responsible for. I don't want anybody else making decisions for me because somebody made a decision about me and it was bad. So therefore, I only want to rely on myself. And so since I become self-reliant, I made a choice, Simon, of what I want to choose. And I choose to think positively. I choose to think that I can always, always, always surmount any problem. It doesn't matter what it is. I've got the deep-rooted belief that I can do it. And if I can't, I'll die trying, or I will reach a certain level of achievement. I'll never consider that I failed, because failure is only a figment of the imagination. If you set out to run a marathon and you only ran 24 miles instead of 22 or 26, are you going to say to yourself you failed? No, you're going to say to yourself you ran 22 fucking miles. You know, and so is the cup half full or half empty? My cup is always half full. And so therefore then, I've created my reality. And this is what I try to depict in my videos. You can do it too. If you make this decision, if you believe in yourself, if you believe that you are responsible, because nobody else out there is responsible. I'm telling you, you can be in a war zone. You could have lost all your family, and yet you can still have a positive outlook on life. Your choice.
Exactly.
If you submit to the negative energy around you and the doom and gloom, your choice. You've made that choice.
Yeah, I completely agree. Completely agree. And I think that this is where the ego can come into play. And this is what I found. I've been reflecting on how you respond in certain situations, and you use the ego as a tool to turn a situation. You know, it's like you won't let them get you down. You won't let them beat you. You won't allow it. They won't get this. And this is sort of how you were coming across. Yeah. And it's using that energy and turning it from one situation to the other. And again, it's about knowing. There's a technique there for anyone that might be struggling to know how.
Yeah, that's right. Because there is no negative energy per se. There is energy. And it depends what the energy is used for. Now, for instance, if we can say that we're all human beings on this planet, and some of the human beings have decided that they want to become like gods, and they look at the failings of their fellow human beings, and they can see that we're easily manipulated, we're easily scared, and we're easily controlled when we are fear-based, then what they have done then, they have created a negative energy, haven't they? But you see, that negative energy, it could be transmuted into positive by people's beliefs, like mine. I'm not believing that. And so this is why I say to people, I say, why do you want to always blame them? I don't blame anybody because I don't feel susceptible to it. And I said they can put me in jail. They can put me in a freaking cage, man. But they can never take my freedom, which I feel away. They can never take my mind. My mind can be all over the world simultaneously, through the universe. I'm flying through the stars now. You can't take that away from me, idiot, with your silly courts and your prisons. And so wherever you put your belief system, if you retain your imagination and your fantasy and all of the positive attributes of a human being, if you retain that in face of all adversity, then you will be free.
I think that's why people should go through the fear. So fear, I always use the acronym that fear is false evidence appearing real, and it might feel that it's scary and whatnot, but go through it, and then I think you can have that awakening by going through that process, and then you'll have a little bit more control over your life. But people are it's like a rabbit in a headlight with fear. They tend to, I've met people in jobs and they're like, oh, I don't like my job. I'm not being paid enough money. I hate my job. Then why don't you leave? Because I don't know if I'll get another one. I've got a mortgage to pay, and they just fill up. Fear. And it's destructive, isn't it?
It is absolutely. And you see, when you look at it, you have to laugh, because this is why I say that humanity is its own worst enemy, because it is being susceptible to suggestion that you are fear-based, because there's nobody around that is threatening you overtly. They're not pointing a gun at you. They're not running after you with a Ku Klux Klan regalia and a noose and all this sort of thing. What they're doing is that they're using suggestive techniques. They're using the Edward Bernays techniques. They're using hypnosis. And basically, so they're all under hypnosis that they should be afraid. And if you keep telling people that they should be afraid, this is why you need insurance, and you need double insurance. You need life insurance and house insurance and car insurance and dog insurance and any other thing. All these things, it's sold on the premise of fear. Pension, fear. And so if you look at the fear and you go, okay, what's going on here now? They're telling me that I need a pension. And if I don't have a pension, then, I'll probably struggle a little bit. Well, what does it entail for me to get a pension? Well, I've got to give a part of my wage now, and I've got to pay it forward. Okay, and so if I don't have that much money, then what I'm going to be doing then is I'm going to be taking away my life presently, because I'm always like, I'm saving from a pension. I've got this mortgage to pay. It's my nest egg. I can't go on holiday. I can't do this and I can't do that, and all these sort of things. So what you're doing is, you are taking away your life now, and you are gambling that you're going to have your life in the future. If you live to be that long,
You
that
live
ain't
that
no
long.
way to go.
And there's enough stories right now in the news where you can listen to people that have done it. They've got. Can you hear me?
It just says the internet
Yeah.
connection is unstable.
But yeah, what I'm saying, there's enough stories coming out right now to say that people have put their money aside, and what they got told, it's not turned out like that. They have nothing.
Yes.
So it's like all these systems that have been set up the walls are starting to come down in a way. It's becoming more and more apparent that the lies that have been spun are because of technology and the internet and whatnot, and how people talk these days, and how people they tend to be rising up and being a bit less scared as well. Because on the one hand, you've got people that are scared, and then on the other hand, you've got people that are awakening.
Yeah.
And they're shouting, and they are calling people out. I would hope for a shift, something along the lines of V for Vendetta. I can see there being a revolution in our lifetime, if not in the next 10 to 20 years.
Oh, absolutely. Well, that hopefully is our lifetime.
We might send.
So just getting back to this fear thing then, for the benefit of the viewers and how they manage it. The fear per se isn't real. There's nothing to fear save fear itself. So it's good to say, people, look at that, assess it, analyze it, and know that to be a true maxim. And so when we look at how we're feeling fear-based in our interior, if we ask ourselves, where is that fear deriving from? The knots in your stomach, the racing in your chest, the palpitation of the heart, the sweating of the skin, the tiredness, and all this sort of thing. All these connotations which pertain to fear. When we look at those, ask yourself, where are they deriving from?
Exactly.
Who is creating them? Your body's creating that effect because it's listening to the false prophet of the egoic mind. Because you think that this knows what the fuck's going on this world and in this universe, when this doesn't know. There's something deeper that knows. And so when you get in touch with something deeper, then this is just a joke. And this is just something, it's a bit like autopilot on a car. You press a button and it controls the speed, and hold the steering wheel relatively stable. And so that's basically all you want to be using this for. You want to be looking at the fear, and you want to be saying, well, it is in actual fact me that's generating my fear, so I'm doing it to myself. Because these people out here, it doesn't matter what suppression they bring about me. If I am in acceptance to it, then I'm playing by their rules. What I'm doing is I'm being susceptible to it, which is their desire. If I'm not susceptible to it, if I say, look, I don't give a fuck if I lose my mortgage, because I'll always be housed somewhere. I live in a first world country, in a country that I've never heard of anybody dying of starvation from. So the chances are I'm not going to be dying of starvation. And if you have the confidence to just say, well, look, if the shit really hits the fan and it comes to the fact that I'm homeless, then there's some institution that's going to be putting me up. And there's some institution that's going to be feeding me. Because the death of our citizens through starvation isn't something that this society tolerates.
Spot on. I have to be careful with my brain, as creative and amazing as it is. I can catastrophize.
All right.
What that is taking hold of something and ending somewhere down the road in the future and living it very much in the moment and feeling it. But to ask, and techniques that I'm using is to have a pause and ask myself the question, what is the world for me now? And trying to live in the moment, not in the past, and being aware, am I in the past? I'm being drawn into that, or I'm in the future. But what is the world for me right now? And that's been one of the most powerful techniques that I've learned recently, to live in the moment, be present. And as you said, ask questions. What am I scared about? How am I feeling? What parts of the body? And it's just mindfulness, lots of these techniques. But a lot of the time you're in your head and everything, as you said, is on autopilot. But stop, take a pause and ask yourself, what is it for me right now? And then use your power to think of a way out of it.
Yes. Try to find the strength to emancipate yourself from the future projections, because the future isn't set in stone, and this catastrophizing that you speak about, my sister catastrophized for years. I think she's finally abated doing that now as she's got older. And finally, she comes to a realization that the people that she's always catastrophized about, the people that she loved, they're in control of their own lives. You know, she always used to catastrophize about me traveling around the world and, oh, you know, he could die for this, he could die for that. And the amount of times she is told, my brothers and sisters, that she swears I'm going to die this time. I'm like, for goodness sake, can you see what's going on? Listen, over my life. I'm a sort of bloke that can get shot and still don't die. When are you going to get it? You know. And so this is what you're doing to yourself. And so when you look at yourself then as a potential catastrophizer, how do you see your future with this? Can we say affliction? Born in mind.
I would agree. It is an affliction, and I personify it, Aaron, because I need to. Because where human beings are, how I see it, compartmentalized. There's many facets from us. We've mentioned the ego. There's the super ego. There's there's super consciousness. There's mind, body, and spirit. There's so many parts of us, and the more I'm learning is, you know, if I personify my fear, or my anxiety, it's separate from, it's of me, it isn't most of me, or who I really am.
So sorry,
did you hear what I said then?
No, broke up there. So if you personify
my anxiety or my fear, lets me know that it isn't, it's just part of something that isn't really me, and I can talk to it and tell it to go, or I can try to understand it, but it's a separate entity from me.
Yes.
And that helps me cope and deal with it.
Yeah.
There was something that before I forget about it, to go back to what Paul Stamets said about the importance of psilocybin, is that there's this state that we can get into that he had, where he was on the stuff, and he had a situation where there was a population of trees that when bears were scratching the trees, bees were getting to it and the trees were dying. So the solution was to kill all the bears. And what he did was like, well, that's crazy. That's just a man-made crazy thing to do. So he took a load of psilocybin, and something happened where we come up with an idea to solve the problem in a different way. To cut a long story short, if we get into this ascended or awakened or higher state, we can actually think outside the box of whatever we're dealing with in our life and have access to information and knowledge to solve anything.
Yeah,
absolutely anything. And it's not, if we're continuously in this cycle of fear and anxiety and money and desire and jealousy and envy, we're never going to get anywhere. We just end up being a disease, really, because as you say, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, and that spreads. It's like a virus. But what's so exciting to me that I know that isn't the purpose. And that's where I wanted to get to. What is the purpose for this community? Why am I here? I've always asked that, why? And I believe is that we're meant to ascend. We're meant to play a good part for each other and the wider world and beyond of that. But we need to get out of this quagmire of shit that's put onto us. And perhaps these I don't like using the word drugs, but these tools are there to help us get out. Yeah, there you go. The botany of the planet is there to help us rise above it and have a little bit more consciousness.
Oh, a lot more consciousness. They are an absolute blessing. And so when we look at this philosophical question, then what is it that we've come here for? And we assess our lives and the path we're on. And many people are in despair, and so they vouch for psychotropics because that's the avenue which is most prolifically propagated to them. And so when they are feeling not as good as they want to, then they will put out their hand for the mother's little helper. But if your disposition, if your path in life has been such whereby instead of staring at the television and watching the advertisements for psychotropics, you bumped into a friend who told you about experience with psychedelics. And so this is the thing, isn't it? It's about our path, our journey takes us on a particular trajectory. And it's very often the people that we meet, the experiences that we have, which change our trajectory. We're forever going up the branch of a tree, starting larger and going smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. We're making all these decisions. And if we do make those decisions, then we are in control of our destiny. If we don't make those decisions, and those decisions are being made for us by the propaganda that we're watching, that's the issue, you see. And so when I and others in this community, we look at why is it that we are thinking like we think, and why is it we're living the lives that we are living? Well, I mean, there is no answer. We can hypothesize about this indefinitely, but I can't help thinking that, like you said, there's some sort of predestined thing going on here. There is something, I feel that this is my job. I feel that this is my purpose. I've never felt like I've had a purpose before in my life, because before, when I was in the Matrix, I thought the purpose was to get rich and powerful. And that's all I wanted to do, until there's a certain fork in my life that showed me another way.
Yeah. Absolutely, it's a calling, isn't it? And when you're in that matrix, and you know all what's on offer is money, sex, and power, it's dirty, it's grimy, and it's like, this doesn't feel right. This isn't. It doesn't bring you happiness. All the stories are there. It doesn't bring you happiness. It causes pain and harm. We've got poor and rich. That isn't what I want. There's something else. We're called to do something else. And then when you go on that trajectory, you have the responsibility to put the right people and the right circumstances in your life, and sometimes the right food in your body. We have a choice. We have free will. We can either go the route of money, sex, and power, or we can go on the road of ascension.
Yeah, and you see what happens is, I once read this book, which was written by Goethe, and it's called Faust. Are you familiar with that book?
I know the title, but I've never read it.
Okay, so this was written in the 1800s, and it was a world bestseller, and it's the most quoted book probably on the planet, other than the Bible. Every single book on psychology that you'll read, you'll see a reference to it. And so I read this book, and what it's about this old bloke, and he's discontented with his life. And then one evening comes about this character who's called Mephistopheles, and Mephistopheles is the devil. And Mephistopheles makes Faust an offer, and he tells him that he can have 9 years of bliss, of women and wealth and all the rest of it. At the end of the 9 years, his soul belongs to him, Mephistopheles. So Faust took it. And so he had all this pleasure. But you see, the closer Faust got to the 9th year, the less pleasure he was gaining from everything that he was involved with. And so initially, when the 9 years seemed a long way off, it was great, and the fruits of life were beautiful. But the closer you got to obligating your part of the contract, then even the sweetest of fruit and the sweetest of woman started to taste bitter. And so this is what the reason why this is so popular, Simon, is because this is the greatest metaphor for the human being ever. Because what it states is that we are given choices. We are presented with Mephistopheles probably every day of our lives. And we have to make a decision whether we want to sell our soul for the instant gratification, or whether we want to stave off our instant gratification, and we want to earn it, and we want to enjoy the sweetness of our fruits over time. You see, and if we are always of a design that we're going to work for it, and we're going to do it honestly, and we're going to do it without hurting anybody, then when you've got it, it tastes sweet. But if you've got it via hurting people, deceiving people, and killing people, and manipulating people, can this fruit really pertain sweetness?
I often wonder that when I observe others getting on in life, by the latter route. I think how do you live with yourself?
Yes, exactly. What sort of a karma do you carry?
Exactly. But and I think that's where we could perhaps get a little bit of detachment and not get tied up by that, looking at other people and think, well, you know, they're getting on and they've got everything I want and they've trod all over everyone, but it will come back and bite them in the arse, as they say. The law of provenance keeps on turning. My wife often says something to me about you'll with the grace that's in the universe, that you'll always take the same test again and again until you get it. You know, and that sticks with me. It's that you get to take that same test again until you get it. And
Yes, and this is the whole premise of reincarnation, and until we finally get it right. And so if that is the case, then the like of you and I that are having these deep philosophical, important conversations that are satiating to the soul, then by their very nature, because they're so soul satiating, it absolutely has to be right. And so therefore then, what we can do at our particular point in life, we can assess our life and we say to ourselves, well, have I anything that I appreciated today? Yes. Have I anything that I enjoyed today? Yes. Have I been productive today? Yes. Have I done somebody a good turn today? Yes. And then you say, oh, all these things good. And then you can say, yes. And then you can say, well, that's it then. We shouldn't want for any more. Why would we want for any more? If you ask yourself the question, oh, I bought a bigger car today. If you say yes, does that make you feel any happier? Really, really, does it make you feel any happier? If it does today, then look at the root why it's making you feel happier and ask yourself next week, next month, and in 2 months' time, because you'll discover that this joy, which is false, that you think you've got now, is going to diminish every single day when the novelty wears off of that thing. But if you do somebody a good turn, that will never diminish. If you enjoy something today, if you take a walk out in the weather, whatever it is, and enjoy it, that will never be diminished, Simon. You see? Yeah. And so this is the secret of life. And this is what we have to do. We have to be present and we have to absolutely appreciate and capitalize on positivity. And so if we live in a positive way, if we express positivity, exude positivity, project positivity, then when we come to our final breath, I don't think that there will be any regrets, because we will know that we've followed the right path.
I'm glad we've recorded this because that was gold dust.
It was an absolutely beautiful conversation, Simon. And the thing is, what I'm discovering, I don't know you from Adam. I saw your picture and I said to myself, when's this guy going to come forward? How long is he going to need before he comes forward? You've come forward now, and it's like you've never been away. You've never been anywhere. I've known you all of your life. This is the relationship that I have with every single one of my viewers that comes forward. We've got this level of interaction. We've been speaking now for about 2 hours, completely uninterrupted. We've never struggled for anything to say. It's absolutely been a blissful conversation, very nurturing. And so what on earth is going on?
Oh,
can anybody tell me what on earth is going on?
Yeah. It's been an absolute pleasure. We'll do it again.
Yeah.
Thank you for what you persevered with. It's an important thing. I think to go back to the very beginning of what we were saying, the story you was telling me about the troll and everything. I think when people do good things, you naturally attract bad things.
Yeah.
And that's part of it.
Partially. Of course, you attract both, but you do attract the negative. It's part and parcel of it, and you'll read this throughout the whole of the world's history.
And on the positive side, you'll reap what you'll sow, and it will go on to big and better things. But I believe there are powers that be that are spiritual as well as physical that will not want this to succeed. And once you know that, you know, you can go into the battle with a bit more.
Feeling the ramifications of it already. You see, what's happening is I'm getting in touch with something, with an energy which is beyond me. And sometimes when I have a load of complications and I'm tried with all this technical stuff and with my technician just up and leaving me, and with YouTube taking my site down, 5 years work, with Vimeo taking my site down, every day I'm under some sort of attack. But you know what happens? There's a feeling around me, and it is the feeling of such awesome power and such awesome determination and validity in what I'm doing, that I know that these are just little stepping stones to make me stronger.
Exactly.
And I am given the energy. And I said it one day, the other day, I think I was doing this video by the tree. I said, what is actually happening is, for all my labor and all my effort, is that I'm being rewarded. And how I'm being rewarded, I'm being paid in bliss. And I'm absolutely being paid in bliss, Simon. I'm telling you now, every single second of the day, I'm so grateful. I'm so ecstatic for this body that I've got, this life that I'm living, the friends that I'm engaging with, everything that I'm doing, even the stuff that's sent to try me. I overcome it all in good time, and I get stronger and stronger and stronger and more determined. And so on the basis of that, whatever this is, I feel it to be a beautiful thing. And even though there may be energies that are going to try to snuff out the light has far more power than the darkness, because you can strike a match in an empty room and all of a sudden the whole room will be illuminated. If you take a bag of darkness out of a dark room and put it into the light, it doesn't travel, does it? And so therefore it shows that darkness is weak. And so once we know that, once we stop believing that darkness is powerful because, we can't see in it and we don't know what's in it, there's nothing in it except fear. Don't get involved in it.
That's its power. That's its only power.
Yeah.
And so amen to that.
Yeah. And so on that note then, finally, all I'd like to suggest to you is don't be a stranger, mate. And, feel free to comment and engage with the community, because now they've seen you and they've heard us speak. I'm pretty sure that, you'll get a dozen more friends over this next few days, and you'll get invitations to come and speak with some of them. And so if you have the time, if you have the inclination, then, you can accept them. And if you don't have the time and inclination or whatever, for whatever reason, then of course you can just bow out and you say maybe it's at the later stage, because there's not that much pressure. There is a little bit of pressure. I am bringing pressure to bear, but only to a point to overcome people's laziness, because this is what I want to overcome. I don't want to intimidate people. I don't want to have them lying in bed at night because they're going to be speaking to me the next day, all this sort of stuff. I want people to be free. I want them to be confident, and I want them to be expressive. And that's why I've created this. And so I hope I achieve it with as many people as I possibly can.
And you will. It will happen. You'll gain more traction. It will, because it's a real good thing.
Yes, and so that's right. The positive thing, it cannot be seen for anything else, even though there are certain people that want to portray it as being so. But at the end of the day, the light will shine through, mate.
That's right. And you stick with that, stand with that. Have you got any plans to come to the UK, or for people to come over to your way?
Well, I don't have any plans to come to the UK. I want to avoid that country at all costs, really. The only thing that would make me want to go to the UK is to see my daughter. But I've given my daughter all the opportunity in the world to come and see me, all expenses paid. And so if that's going to happen, then she'll do it as and when she feels like it. And it is on the cards, but she's a bit of a tricky job, and she wants to get a better job, wants to get money. She's under the pressure of being in London and all this sort of stuff. And
she's busy.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I'm getting to the point whereby I feel ready to start inviting people, whoever it is, any of the members, to come out and see me.
Yeah.
Last year, Lisa came from Toronto to see me, to spend a week with me, and it was a fantastic experience for us both, really bonding, and it was a beautiful thing. And so I want to do that. Now I'm building up a relationship with people that I feel akin to, and I'm not going to have any reservations about it whatsoever. And so in the summer months then, when I'm going to be somewhere different in Portugal by then, and I've got my eye on a few small hotels and hostels and that, if I'm in the vicinity where I can say, look, the hostel's €25 a night, it's no big deal. The flight is €50 coming from the UK. Does anybody want to come down? Okay. Yeah. Just send me an email. If you want to come down, you'll be staying in the hostel or in a hotel. You'll have your own room or share, whatever you want to do. Come down for, 2 or 3 days, 5 days a week, whatever. It's down to you people. And so, yes, that is what I'm leading up to being open to.
It's going to be a good year, isn't it?
It is going to be a good year. Feeling very, very positive about it. And since I've just recently got rid of all the dead profiles, then the site has a better energy to it, because we know who everybody is now. We can see the face, and people are commenting, and most people are doing Skype conversations, and I'm pretty confident that in time, every single one of the viewers will be conversing with at least me, and hopefully many other people. Many of the viewers now are setting up Zoom, and they are recording their videos with each other. And so what's going to happen is people are going to be sending me the recorded video via a package called Sprend, which is a free package. It's dead easy to use. All you got to do is click download in 5 seconds. It asks for your email, where it's going to, and you just click on the video which has been recorded, because on Vimeo, everything's just automatically recorded with the press of a button, and it's stored in its archives. And so you double click, you convert it, and then you open it. All really easy. And so this is what I've been wanting to do.
All right.
To bring people into a facility whereby we all have Zoom. It doesn't cost anything. And so when anybody makes any Skype video conversations, which they both consider to be suitable to put out to our community, send them to me. I'll upload them. Hey presto, we've got the whole community doing the same thing. I'm no longer the focal point of it, because if everybody wants to speak to me and everybody wants to send me comments and information, it puts an enormous amount of workload on me. And of course, as the site grows, then that grows exponentially. And so I want to set it up and go away for a couple of weeks and tune in every now and again and go, wow, that's really interesting. Look at all that communication that's going on. All that positive energy. And I've got like half a dozen videos ready to upload when I get back. Superb.
Yeah, you're on your way to that, definitely.
Yeah.
Cool. My hope is that's why I'm not only paying, but that's why I'm talking to you. I want to be part of that. So, yeah.
Brilliant. And thank you for subscribing. Thank you for coming forward with this conversation, introducing yourself and telling us some of your story. You're always welcome to come back again. And so I hope you do. And we look forward to seeing a higher profile of you on the site.
I'm sure you will. Thanks, Aaron.
Cool. You're welcome, mate. Cheers.
Bye for now.
Bye now, mate.
Bye.